But if you are in the business of solar panel manufacturing, it's not looking okay. It's looking rather good. Demand is strong, government commitment, and now this entire China dumping, which in a sense was a serious concern for the industry, that where the Chinese companies were dumping left, right, and center, Indian companies were suffering. The government is now committed to really protect that. Whether it is in the case of solar panel manufacturers, whether it is in case of photovoltaic cells, or even if you are importing glass as a solar panel manufacturer. So those safeguard duties, in a sense, now will really pivot the local industry to be more competitive. Given that China has scale, skill, size, and subsidy, they've been dumping left, right, and center. So last week, Borosil Renewables stock reacted to the news which came. I think it came on last Wednesday. And from 510 to 580, 590, the stock has already reacted to the market news. But what would be the change in totality? How will this change dynamics? And in the light of this new duty, what changes for the business locally? Let's take that conversation forward with Pradeep Kheruka, Executive Chairman with Borosil Renewable. Pradeep bhai, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Can you break this news for us that how would the sector benefit and how would Borosil benefit?
So I would say that the first time that we applied and obtained anti-dumping duty on solar glass was when it got imposed in 2017 August. And within 5 years, that means within 2022 August, solar glass production in India had risen from 1 gigawatts per year to 17 gigawatts per year. That gives you the kind of energy which is there in the entrepreneurial class in India to start production of something so specialized as solar glass. And I'm pleased to say that all the companies that started have been able to successfully sell their production. To take a little background on the solar industry, we have about a 75 gigawatts capacity in terms of solar modules, which is available today. And this is looking like going up to maybe 150 gigawatts within the next 2 years. If you look at solar cells, from 3 gigawatts, it's going up to 100 gigawatts. Now, both solar cells and solar modules have risen on the back of strong government support for domestic manufacturing. We have already seen what support for manufacturing in glass did to the solar glass industry in 2017. By 2022, everybody was expecting a sunset review to continue with the dumping, and for some reason, the dumping duty was allowed to lapse, and all the manufacturing plans went on hold. And now that dumping has come back, and at least it's come back provisionally, we are yet to see a final vote on the matter. But we are hopeful that we should be able to the provisional duty will be made complete and final. And based on that, already the people who had put their plans on hold have resumed their interest. And what we have already on the cards is 50 gigawatts of solar power coming up from 15 today. So another 35 is already announced, including by us. So I believe that the solar industry is going through a rapid expansion phase right now, and solar glass is part of that.
Okay, going through a rapid expansion phase right now, but I just wanted to take a step back, Mr. Kheruka, and understand as to what was the need to begin with of this, safeguard duties with respect to import. In the sense, what was the price differential? How much were we importing? And if the domestic capacity was good enough, why weren't we able to supply and meet the domestic demand?
The domestic capacity was there. The reason that we were not able to supply was because the imported price, in the absence of any sort of duty, was crashed in January of this year. From between January and August, they crashed the Chinese price, by 32%. And this crash has come on the back of no reduction in any cost of input. So the cost of the raw materials, cost of fuel, cost of electricity, everything has remained pretty much unchanged. And a 32% crash was purely done to destabilize Indian domestic manufacturing. And in September, they crashed it further by 8%. So that's a 40% crash. And you can have all the capacity available in the country, but nobody's going to buy it at this price. And now with this anti-dumping duty, which has been announced, it has equalized the subsidy that was being given by the Chinese to their manufacturers, and now it makes it viable for us to resume again.
I can ask you that, to put it in numbers, what is the differential of what, let's say, you can supply a module at versus what the imported one would cost a company?
See, when we had applied for anti-dumping, at that time the market was already very low. That was about 38,000 rupees a ton, and then it came down to 28,000 rupees a ton in terms of the cost of the glass, and the actual price should be around 58,000 or 64,000 thereabouts, because it's not fair to compare our cost. For any new player who comes up in a greenfield situation, they would be facing a very high costs, and it's important that the government makes sure that the industry grows, and the industry should not be should not be in a quandary or in a swamp.
So anti-dumping duty is imposed when the local industry needs to be protected. That's the whole spirit. Now the local industry may not be competitive largely because the Chinese in this case, they are subsidizing it, or the cost of production is lower, or they are more efficient. So what is the reality here in terms of why the sector needs protection?
The reality is stunning. The reality is that we are more competitive than the Chinese. Our costs of production are lower than theirs. For instance, in my company in Borosil, we use about 1,200 kilocalories of energy to melt 1 kilogram of glass. In the companies that the Chinese have set up in India, for instance, the cost is more like 1,680 kilocalories per kilogram of glass. So they are inefficient compared to ours. From our one production line, we draw 280 tons per day. From the Chinese production line, they draw about 200 tons a day. So that gives you an indication of where we are and where they are. Our furnaces are much more efficient. They are more cost effective. But the point is that if we are to view competitiveness on the scale of the quantum of input resulting in a certain quantum of output, we beat the Chinese. But here, what is the price of the quantum of input? What is the price of the quantum of output? There lies the tail. So we do not need protection from the Chinese at all if we were working on a level playing field, but we are not. And it's the same story with steel, for instance. That's not my topic, but I know that the Indian steel costs are cheaper in terms of the measure of cost, the quantum of input versus quantum of output. So we are struggling against a state which is subsidizing its industry with the objective of dominating the world in terms of cost, and thereby causing local industry to shut down.
Mr. Kheruka, you also have, of course, plans to expand your capacity, but talk to us about what the order visibility is like. Have you started seeing any increase in inquiries now itself? And on the back of this, what's the prognosis for FY26 looking like in terms of revenue growth and margins?
See, the domestic industry put together is barely able to meet about 30 to 40% of the demand that we have in India already. And this 2-year gap that we unfortunately had to suffer, if it had not been there, domestic industry would have kept up with the demand. So now we'll be going through with it. So there's no shortage of demand. We can sell everything that we can produce. It was just a question of the price, which has now been resolved. And as far as Borosil is concerned, we had already taken permission from the board to expand by another 1,000 tons. And we had put that expansion on hold because of unfavorable market conditions. And now that this has just been very recent, we're starting to review our growth plans all over again.
Reiterate one last question in terms of, that margin aspiration of mid-20 levels. Is it going to be achievable, and what are you targeting for revenues?
I normally do not make any forward-looking projections, but I would say that what you've just said is possibly going to happen.
All right, Mr. Kheruka, really appreciate your time, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Markets are looking okay.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.